Hello, my fellow gnomes. What you're watching right now are clips of me playing submissions from this year's GnomeJam. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I ran a game jam contest in the run up to Easter where people make games, and I give away a bunch of Robux to the best ones. This year we had another exemplary batch of entries, but it did almost turn out a complete disaster. More on that later. So, third year of GnomeJam, although technically the fifth contest. What can I say? 2020 was kind of a different vibe, with 3 that year. But this year, I kept things pretty open. Instead of going for a theme, I gave people an asset pack and told them just, hey, use 5 assets and here's some rules on how to use them. Well, I thought these were simple rules, at least I tried my best to lay each of them out in the video, but I guess this is the internet and there was money at stake and you guys had questions, lots of them. After the announcement video, I ended up having several weird, bizarre discussions with people on clarification, like, does mooing count as talking? Is idling movement? Is jumping falling? And is walking moving? Good old Gnome Land. That's my Discord, by the way. Link in the description for that. For people who somehow haven't joined it, should probably check it out. Anyway, once the rules were cleared up, we did get some pretty cool games this year, as you can hopefully see from the compilation I've made. The asset pack meant you could pretty much make anything, although admittedly it probably skewed things a bit towards the RPG sort of adventure genre. As of the 314 submissions, 25% said they were within that category, with another 12% on top being egg hunts, which is kind of a similar thing. So in all, we ended up with about a third of that same rough category. Now, if you're wondering what that tiny wedge on the right is, that's the 4 people who submitted tower defense games. I was actually pleasantly surprised not to be swamped with them, considering that's been a big part of my channel last year. But the submissions I did get in that genre were actually pretty good. So, well done guys. In fact, well done to all of you who entered. I know the prize money is always a big draw for these competitions. After all, 40,000 Robux is a lot of money. But honestly, these jams are such a great demonstration of the community we have there. It's such a mammoth effort to go through playing, reviewing, and recording all of your games for these contests. So that's why I've tried to compile them all here as best I can. Now, I know unfortunately not every game is going to get the attention it deserves, and I did have some great fun moments. I'd like to share them all, but it would just take me too long to edit it, and it'd be too long to watch as well. But I hope by sort of throwing them all into one video like this, at least gives everybody a bit of attention and a moment in the limelight. Because that's what a GnomeJam is all about really. You guys, my fellow gnomes, showing me and yourself what you can do. So I really hope that everyone comes away from this jam happy with what they've achieved in taking part in the contest and challenging themselves to make a game. Even if the end result didn't turn out the best, I guarantee you'll have learned something for your next project. And if you didn't take part in the jam, hopefully some of these entries might inspire you to take part next time. Now, I might not have been taking part in the contest, but I certainly learned a lesson of my own. And that is to be very, 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 very wary of anything you get from the toolbox. I really shouldn't have to say this, considering it's something I myself have talked about on the channel about staying secure and being selective with what you do, but we all make mistakes. The only problem is this mistake affected hundreds of people. So what happened? Well, it all started with the asset pack. Now, I've actually used asset packs before, such as for the Halloween GnomeJam back in 2020. Usually, these are just a collection of parts and meshes without any scripts. But this time, seeing as I'd set requirements about having objects for movements, tools, interacting and destroying, I wanted to actually give my participants some options and something to start with. Now, I do like to try and make the GnomeJam open for people, regardless of their ability level, so even if they're just starting out in scripting. So I threw in some models that already had a few scripts to give people a hand. A simple driving system for the Jeep, a few tools that can wield and do damage, that sort of thing. I didn't really think too much about it, I just checked they all worked, and then quickly packaged them up into the model and sent the link off to everyone for the video. Great. Now it wasn't until the next day that this user notified me of something a little odd. Because if you try to run the game, you get a message in the output about turning on HTTP request. It's only displayed in blue text, so it doesn't stand out as much as a red or yellow syntax warning or error would be boldly highlighted, so I can only assume I just didn't notice it. But it's certainly a major red flag. There's really no reason a car, weapon, or any other simple feature should need network access. In fact, I've never even had to use HTTP service in any of my projects on Roblox so far, so what's it doing in this asset pack? Where was it coming from? Well, the user did a bit of digging, and it turned out to be buried inside a weld script within the fishing rod model. Now this is pretty smart, because if you open up the script, it just looks like a perfectly ordinary script, with Quenty credited as the user at the top, and then just a bunch of code to do with welding. But if you scroll down to line 160, you'll suddenly discover this rather weird P call buried in there, which is the source of the HTTP request. Now it goes to this link, so I followed it, and it took me to a website called Aureus, which claims to be the #1 server-side executor. So it looks like what these people are doing is trying to hide malicious code in various models that can then get spread around and placed into people's games. They're then probably going to get admin access and whoever knows what else, people who use their tool. And the worst part is they're actually selling access to this to people for $15. Now I have no idea if spending money on this actually works or how many games they've managed to infect, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're just scamming people too. So what does this mean for the GnomeJam? Well, the bad news is I've now ended up promoting this dodgy thing to the thousands of people who watched my announcement video and added it unknowingly to their projects. However, the good news is you can simply just remove the line in question and you're fine. The backdoor should be safely removed, and if you never enabled your HTTP service to begin with, it wouldn't have done anything. Still though, a rather embarrassing incident for me, so my apologies to anyone who grabbed the original model. I definitely need to be more careful when trying to just grab something quick from the toolbox in the future. Okay, so embarrassing YouTuber slip-up apology moment thingy aside, let's talk about your actual entries. In a few moments, I'm going to be revealing the runners-up, who will each receive 1,000 Robux, along with the winner themselves, who will be taking home a huge 40k. But before we get there, I want to discuss some general feedback from all the games. Overall, some really good stuff this year. You guys keep smashing it out of the park, and I say there were probably 30 games that were right up there and really challenged for those top spots. Now, there are a few things that tipped it in the favour of the winners, and if you're looking to enter next year and you're looking for tips, then here's some feedback. Now, one of the main things is just having gameplay that's actually really enjoyable. Now, I know that maybe sounds a little silly, but I see so many games putting effort into complex mechanics and then just forgetting to make things fun for the user. Having things like no checkpoints and kicking the user if they die, or my personal gripe, forcing me to sit through really long dialogue cutscenes that don't actually add to the game, but you just giving me a 10-page essay on why the bunny wants his Easter eggs can make it pretty painful. In storytelling, there's a concept of show, don't tell, which for games simply means you shouldn't be relying solely on long text scenes, but instead try to engage the user in actual action and gameplay, which can then progress the story onward if you want. And a lot of the time you don't even need that much of a story. Something about an alien invasion and we have to fight them off? Cool. You can figure out the rest later. I don't need to know the last 5 centuries of the alien species' histories before I can even move my character. And another big mistake I've seen quite a few people make is just having really arbitrarily difficult obby sections in their game. I mean, sure, if that's the basis of your game, that's fine. But if I'm completing a puzzle game, I don't expect to have to suddenly complete some expertly timed sideways jump, which will then kick me out of the game if I miss. I'm not kidding, multiple games have actually done that to me this GnomeJam. But rant aside, let's get on to this year's prize winners. The first runner-up is from Simple Devs, and at first glance it appears to be a simple game about running a car wash. Initially, I thought this was probably inspired by the popular Zack's Service Station game, and I thought it was just going to be some sort of simulator, but it turns out to be some kind of wacky crime game. Customers bring you cars, you wash them, but then, instead of returning them to the customer, you dismantle them and then sell the parts to the alien next door. I'm not sure really why we have to clean the car in the first place if we're just scrapping it for parts, but I guess spaceship components are delicate or something. It's certainly a really cool concept for a game, although I did half wonder if it was inspired by last year's GnomeJam winner about farming, which then had a similar twist where you then ended up farming body organs. Sounds strange, I know, but play the two games and let me know what you think. Was there an inspiration? Anyway, regardless, a pretty fun experience. Would happily kill my customers again. 10 out of 10. Next up, we have Speedrun at 12 AM by Cirrus Devs and Zavistic. This game takes the pretty novel approach of offering you an advisor for when you start the game. I've not really seen any game do this before, and I thought it was a really fun idea. You can choose from the nerd, who types way too much text. You've got the noob, who kind of just makes things up as it goes along, and then you have the alien who just does his own thing. As for me, I spawned into the game and immediately saw I could just go back to sleep. A very tempting option, but apparently not the right one. The fun thing about this game is it offers a load of replayability as you try to figure out what you're supposed to do and then get different messages from the different advisors as you try to hone your score, until I eventually managed to get the coveted under 30-second achievement. GG. Our third runner-up is Aureus Bat with this beautifully stylized low-poly game called Raccoon Valley. I just love the aesthetics of this game. It makes it a real treat to explore, and I'm so impressed with what they've done in such a short time here. Amazingly, they even added Xbox support, which I only discovered accidentally from having my controller connected. The gameplay is pretty simple. You make your way around the map with your net and catch these unruly little chuckling gnomes who are running around causing havoc. Tragically, the game does break when you enter one of the buildings and you're unable to exit, but as always, I understand it's a GnomeJam. You were time pressured and these things happen. What matters is you've managed to craft a really cute and tidy little game here. Somewhat less cute, we have a horrifically good creation that I never expected to witness in the form of a rat gnome from Werewolf. Yes, it's a spider. Yes, it's got a gnome where its head should be. Does it make sense? No. Is it scary? Yes. I'm impressed at what they've managed to pack in here. The game uses the kind of mechanics we see in games like Granny, Piggy, Teddy, where you have to find keys, unlock new areas, find more keys, and then hopefully escape. But all the while you have this horrific demon spawn breathing down your neck. Any good horror game really needs to make use of sound, and I really like how this game does it to great effect. Hearing the tippy tapping of the spider's legs in combination with the constant chilling ambience of the game is really powerful and well done here. Certainly a deserved runner-up. Now, a lot of the time when I'm reviewing games, I'm looking for something that's just a little bit different, and I thought this game from Comis Man really fit the bill. On the face of it, it's the kind of game we've seen before. Go and collect eggs. Great. But it mixes things up by turning it into a kind of 3D visual puzzle. We're given this interesting isometric-like camera angle, which means you have to rotate piece by piece to work out how to navigate. They've also got a 3-egg system, a bit like the star coins we see in Mario, so you're motivated to see everything a level has to offer, rather than just breezing through it, and then you can go back and play it at any time. There's 5 levels to play through in total, and I really recommend checking this out if you're looking for something pretty chill to play. All the links to the winners here will be in the description below. But continuing on the theme of camera angles, we have The Quest for the Holy Trumpet by Rubinator Dab. I always find it interesting to see the world from a different angle, and this game does it in the form of an old school shooter. The menu is inspired by Doom, I love this, and you've got plenty of enemies to blast away through dungeons that are all randomly generated, as it's a roguelike game. So you've got a working shop where you can purchase upgrades and weapons before returning back to blasting them away. I don't have that much to say about this, but it's just fun. I really enjoyed this, great job. My next game on the list is from Puzzle Plank, and is another case of a game being almost overlooked. It starts off looking like a frankly kind of boring, just plain fetch quest game. That is, until we head through this magic flattenator device and we wake up in this actual 2D world. Now, a lot of 2D games on Roblox just rotate the camera, as I've done with one of my tutorials years back, but the developer here has gone to the effort of actually making their entire game in GUI. I'm really impressed. The movement feels really smooth, we can jump between these 3 platforms, and while the game starts out really easy with just a single bullet to dodge, it soon increases the difficulty with spiked areas that pop out at random, exploding boxes, and even this floating mushroom of death that chases around. And that's not all, they've even packed in this boss fight at the end, complete with a flying saucer and giant bunny. Truly a phenomenal entry. Amazing work here. Our next runner-up is no other than GnomeJam veteran Kugi01 with his neat little backpack quest game. I think this game is a great example of keeping things simple, but executing them really well. The actual mechanics are simple tasks like gathering coins and fetching items. However, it's all really brought well together, with a pretty good humour which actually makes the dialogue scenes fun for once. And get this, you can even skip the dialogue if you want to, although it's funny enough to actually want to read it. The game also boasts a pretty interesting acceleration movement system, a bit like Sonic, where you speed up over time and then you have to regain that speed if it stops, which makes it feel like it could be well suited to a speedrun. I think my favourite moment of the game was interacting with the noob shop, buying all his items, and then the NP suddenly saying in a panic that he sold all his items, he doesn't know what to do, so he'll have to close the store. It's all these fun little details like that that really breathes a lot of life into this fun little game. On to our 9th prize winner of the video now. This is Super Gnome Adventure from Jam Norman. I've seen a lot of fun adventure games this jam, but this one is probably my favourite. It has a huge variety of different levels, each with their own theme and gameplay. From crossing this ridiculously busy road, then cycling at light speed, dodging footballs, an underwater level, of course, and then a classic obstacle obby thing, underground castle filled with lava. We've got silly Easter eggs galore with all these night NPCs, and even a very worthy boss fight experience to cap it all off at the end. And the best part is that after doing all this, we rescue my poor wife. Well, GnomeCode decides just to leave his wife in the castle and wander off on his own to collect the prize. I'm sorry, Gnome Wife. So last but not least, this year's final runner-up. It's a multiplayer game and it's called Shed Invaders by C. Opus. Of course, the shed was our centerpiece item from the GnomeJam back in 2022, and it's fun to see lots of games like this one continue the meme forwards. Of course, it's not just a meme, it's actually a really impressive game they've made here. You start off equipped with a simple frying pan before bonking away increasing waves of enemies until you can purchase all the various brick battle inspired weapons. I think this game did a great job of incorporating the asset pack into the style of the game, and they even used the Jeep as the shop, which slides in each round, which I thought was awesome. But what I was most impressed with is how the difficulty seems to scale to the amount of people playing. So thankfully I was able to take advantage of this with a few friends to really get the full experience, and it gets really chaotic in the later rounds. There were a few times where I didn't think we were going to make it, but we just narrowly scraped through. A fantastic defense game with an action feel that kept us on our toes. Really enjoyable game, and definitely another worthy runner-up. So that's our 10 prize winners, but there's one more yet to announce. The winner. So without further ado, the winner of this year's GnomeJam is Rexiop3_2 with their awesome game Loop. Congratulations, enjoy your 40,000 Robux. A GnomeJam record-breaking prize, in fact. But this is actually a new milestone for GnomeJam for 2 reasons, because believe it or not, this is actually their 2nd golden gnome. Yeah, that's right, Rexiot previously entered and won our 1 hour contest all the way back in October 2021. So this user has some form. Now I thought I recognised the name when going through the entries, but it wasn't until I actually came to edit this video that I realised I was actually handing out a double award. So I promised I was actually blind in some respect. But extra congratulations to them, the first ever double awarded golden gnome. So let's check out this prize winning game. The graphics are pretty minimal. It starts off with you stuck inside some kind of computer terminal where suddenly you're being hacked as it tries to load the game. Oh no! It's not able to load the world correctly, and instead you find yourself dumped into this simulation with all the items from the asset pack then randomly appearing in your hand as weapons. I thought this was a really cool mecha way of using the asset pack and acknowledging them within the game as just random assets, which they are. I remember a few people actually complained to me that the asset pack was too restrictive for their art style, but I think a game like this shows that there's always interesting ways you can find around restrictions. Now as you can see, the gameplay is actually super simple. Enemies run towards you and you throw objects at them. That's it. But you know what? This is fantastic gameplay. Doesn't bore you, but instead just throws you into the action. Here's a frying pan, fling it at the bad guys. I love the fast-paced intensity of this combined with its minimalist looks. It kind of reminds me of the game Superhot. I don't know if this was an inspiration for them, but I definitely get strong vibes from that. I think I counted 10 different levels in the game here, but the transitions between them are really smooth. The screen fades out, and when it fades back, a new area has gently materialised before you, and then it's back to the action. There are a couple of different enemy types going on too. We've got these red fellows that just walk straight towards us. We've got the yellow boys who fling their own random object at us. And then we've got these glitchy spooks who you can't really see and just have to fling stuff and hope for the best. And who could forget this random alien who sells us random hats? I really enjoyed playing through this. And for me, that's what cinched the win. It's fun. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on this year's GnomeJam. And a massive thank you to everyone who took part. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye!